All right, we are live.
Welcome, and for some of you, welcome back. This is House the 20. I am Justin, the DM, and your host tonight.
And I play Phidias Mazarak, a drow shaman.
I'm Wes, and I play Enceladus, a Vryloka warlock.
And my name is Joe, and I play a changeling assassin as Gers the Immortal.
Nice.
I am Jake, and I play Thrax Akan, the human monk, as well as Celestine, the Warforged paladin.
And the two in our group that are not unable to join us tonight are the other Jake, who plays Rook, the Revenant Artificer, and Jeremiah, who plays Vakias, the Minotaur Druid. Okay, so last time we had just discovered Vakias at his home, and trying to find a druid that would be able to tame an animal enough so that we could fulfill Lord Albertus's quest for the best bachelor party ever, the most legendary bachelor party. So yeah, do you guys remember kind of how that all went down? We did talk, I think, last time about how you went to Vakias' cottage, went through his maze, you killed some of his spiders, and he said, "Of course I'll join you." After killing all my spiders.
He was a little upset about his spiders.
Oh,
I think
he was
a little
definitely upset.
right. But he agreed to go with you. And I'm trying to remember, did you guys did he say, "Oh yeah, here, we'll just bring one of my spiders"? Do you remember what the animal was?
It was a spider.
It was a spider?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
It was for sure a huge, scary spider.
And maybe this is, I don't know if this isn't my memory working for me, but for some reason I thought that Vakias was going to pose as the wild beast, but did that not happen? I want to say that the conversation was like, "Hey, should I just kind of like be the entertainment as a minotaur?" Or
We thought about that, but then we were afraid that something bad might happen to him, so we decided to stick with the spider. We kind of realized that, we're used to fighting big bads, and we might not see the spider as scary, whereas going to a bachelor party, spider's probably good enough. And in the off chance that it wasn't good enough, that's fine, but we'd rather go that route than potentially have this person that we just met get murdered or maimed.
there you go.
So I think, yeah,
Did you guys use the lasso that you bought?
we did.
Yeah.
Because we realized that Vakias could control the spider, and we didn't really need the lasso, but we wanted to have people know that the spider was under control, to avoid it getting hurt. Because if they just saw a spider walking with us, it'd be like,
Kill the spider.
kill the spider, but not really be like, no, it's fine, he doesn't bite.
Right.
Um, you always feel more comfortable when the dog's actually on a leash.
There you go. Makes sense. So you're walking the spider back through the streets of Korth to Albertus's grand bachelor pad, where the special bachelor party event is going to happen. And you kind of were all given instructions when you got to the door on, kind of dressing as servants. And I want to say that some of you opted out. Some of you were waiting outside the door. Some of you were not participating in the actual events in the room there. Do any of you remember why? Because I think it was just, if I look at my list here, it was just Phidias, Rook and Celestine that actually brought the spider in, or maybe not. Maybe it was something else.
I think if I recall, since the bachelor party was going to be at night, I think Gers was kind of sneaking around and or looking for clues.
Yeah.
Well, I know that I was present. Gers was present during the actual party, whether
Okay.
I was out walking about or not, because at some point we discussed the fact that I could use my poison, and one of my poisons that I could administer would make the spider or Vakias or whatever appear dead, but not actually be dead. And I don't know if that's because Vikas was like, "Hey, this is my spider. You know, I'm a druid. I protect nature. This is my friend." And we came to this thing where I could administer this poison, and it would just like the thing would not actually die. I don't remember exactly how that went down, but I know I was there to administer poison when I was given the signal.
Okay. Yeah. What I remember is somehow Vakias was being attacked by the guests. And I don't remember how that went down either.
So what happened was they dealt with the spider, and then the groom decided that he was going to take on Vakias too. So it wasn't enough. He was pretty inebriated and was feeling really gung ho.
Got it.
And he decided to take on Vakias, in which case I think that Celestine, Rook, and I said myself twice. I don't remember who else was part of it, but I think that was the small encounter you and I were talking about, where we just kind of slapped him and said, like, calm down. Like,
yeah, it's almost like no weapons were pulled out, but some cuffs around the ear.
I think we slapped some ears for a second.
Got it. Okay, good. So yeah, I think that whole kind of bachelor party, froth of testosterone, sort of looking for bigger and better and bloodier sort of kind of event. I've had that sort of inspired by just some of my life experience, where I am at a party and I see things just turn from, hey, this was a cool idea, to, oh boy, how did we get here? And so yeah, it's sort of like the the ever ratcheting one-upmanship and alcohol and the frat mentality of just sort of like, well, if you do this, I'll do that. Anyway,
it's not quite the fight scene from Anchorman, but it's up there.
That's right. Right, exactly. Right. So you had a bunch of drunk guys that killed a spider and started to mess with the giant minotaur, and then you guys said, "Hey, we've fulfilled what we needed to do." And Albertus pushed you off, like, "This isn't the time. This isn't we're partying. This isn't the time to talk about your payment. Come see me later," or whatever. And so I think you guys waited till the morning. And you went back to his abode, his apartment, and kind of shook things up. Remember what you found?
Yeah, he was. If I recall, he was only offering to pay us, and not even as much as he said he would originally. And was trying to pretend like, oh, I'm not going to give you a meeting. I'm not going to give you. I'll pay you a little bit more.
Right.
And
he was like super hungover too, right? Just like,
oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, we could. His guard out front was offering to pay us off and would not let us go inside. And to which case, I believe that we kind of brute forced our way in.
Yep.
I remember we refused any payment of money. We were pretty well set on, you better fulfill your obligation, buddy.
Yeah. I think if I recall, Celestine got another one of those pretty successful intimidates to where the guy decided that his life was worth more than his job.
Yep. Yeah, I think I remember that too. The bodyguard from the DM side was set up to hang and to actually be a force, but I want to say you got a critical on your intimidate, and in that case, it doesn't matter how astute the bodyguard was at being being intimidating. You were going to over intimidate him, and he just said, "I'm out. We're done."
That's one of the skills that Celestine actually has a really high ability score in.
Yep, totally. So Albertus says, I don't know. Here's some more money, and you guys give him an ultimatum, like, hey, we'll give you some time to think about this, and then we're going to be back, sort of thing. I kind of forget how that ended.
I believe that he kind of led on to, like, I can't exactly get this for you, but I could in the future maybe set something up. And so we kind of told him, like, hey, we're gonna go away for a bit, and when we come back, you're gonna set up that meeting, or else. Kind of ultimatum.
Right.
Definitely a threat of some kind, and we were leaving to come back, but we decided to cool our heels at the same time, right?
We decided that since we were waiting anyways, we wanted to actually, for the first time ever in this entire campaign, tie up some loose ends.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to sort of start clearing our conscience, tying up some loose ends, and go find Occam.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah, so Occam, just to remind the listeners, go back and listen to the second or third, maybe the second installment of our recap, and one of Doug's first character, Occam, who is a Minotaur, and he got bit by a were creature and was infected with lycanthropy, and right around the time when they were trying to find information about Orla in Sharn, he kind of saved the party by riding off into the sunset and leaving a note saying, "Hey, I'm just sort of a liability. I'm going to go try to figure out what my affliction is and how to cure it." And Doug's character left the party.
Quite literally rode off into the sunset.
Yeah, quite literally rode off into the sunset on his favorite black beauty. And
over the ocean,
over
the water.
Right, it was
not
beautiful.
Too many people can ride off into the sunset on the ocean.
On the ocean, yeah, it was fantastic. It was a beautiful, beautiful epic scene. Yeah. When Vakias joined, another Minotaur, he had mentioned something about a brother and his backstory. He talked to the group at one point and said, "Hey, so I used to live in the Eldine Reaches, and I had a younger brother, and I was set to protect him, and I somehow lost him and my mother." Actually, maybe it was the other way around. Maybe Occam was the older brother. I don't exactly remember how that went down.
I think
and maybe
Occam was the older one.
Occam was the older brother and protected young Vakias. And that's all that he remembers of him, because he was separated from him. And he does remember that there was a labyrinth tattoo on his back, and so this sounded eerily familiar to the rest of the party, and they said, "Hey, sounds like someone we know and someone we wanted to also find." And
I think the other thing to keep in mind too is that we felt a little bad for some of the damage that Vakias took on from the bachelor party that wasn't part of the deal. And he was incredibly helpful to us. And so while we were waiting to cool off, we said, well, we kind of owe you a little bit. And we think that our friend could be someone that might know your brother. So let's help you out, try and find your brother, or at least someone that might be related to you or know your brother. Why don't you come with us and help our friend? And that's how he kind of like stuck around with us after the bachelor party.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't like a job well done, see you later sort of thing. You guys were gonna help him out, as well as also very much find someone that you had been curious about, at least, about how he was doing and whether he had cured his lycanthropy and everything like that. So where did you guys get the lead to go to Arcanix? You guys knew that that's where he grew up. That was where
We
his
knew
origin.
that he was heading toward Arcanix. He mentioned it as a part of his like farewell. Gonna
That's
head up
right,
there,
yeah, his
hopefully
letter.
find a cure. And so I think that was the starting point. Let's go to Arcanix and see if we can either find him or get word about him if he's around in the area.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't. Jake, can you pull up the map and maybe I can kind of
Give
show
me a second here.
a few spots on the map here.
Let me zoom out so I can find where you want me to go on the map first.
Let's start at Korth, and then if you can get like the eastern half of Lake Galifar, in your sight as well, which is to the west.
Can you go ahead and ping where you want me to be?
Korth is right here. This
Okay,
is
there we
where
go.
the bachelor party went, and then Arcanix is over Lake Galifar,
Okay.
over in
Let
that
me go
area.
ahead and get the map open here.
Okay.
All right, the map is live for our viewers.
Okay, so Korth over here in Karnath is where the bachelor party was, and Reckonmark up here, right, kind of in the Thronehold River area, is where Bacchius lives, and Arcanix all the way over to the west here on the southeast edge of our Lake Galifar is Arcanix, which is the town that it has a very large university for magic users, for mages, and it is where Occam grew up, kind of in this spot right here. He was an orphan, and he was raised by human parents, and he learned his healing skills early, and was always sort of quiet, and decided to kind of leave as he left the party. Similarly, his parents and Arcanix, after he learned enough to travel the world and to hopefully find the meaning of the labyrinth on his back, and what it meant to be a minotaur in the world. So the group travels in that direction. Do you guys? I think you guys go to Passage, right? First, which is this larger city right here, a little bit
I
north
seem to
of
remember
Arcanum.
going there.
Yeah, I think you traveled on a wagon. Passage is sort of a merchant town, sort of a way. It has the lightning rail that goes through it, and a lot of foot travel from all around the region. And so at Passage, I think you helped. I think you caught a ride on a wagon down to Arcanix and helped some people, like on the road between the two. Does anyone remember?
Talking about
Right.
between Passage and Arcanix.
I don't remember
Like,
much about any kind of encounters on the road.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that there necessarily was. I think there might have been some negotiation or some role play that you guys did that kind of either avoided a fight or something like that. But Joe,
What?
you were with us
Avoiding
at
a
this point
fight.
for the first time in the whole 4 years previous.
Yeah.
Joe, do you remember? Do you have anything written for this?
Yeah, so there's a couple weeks that I didn't have written down, but by August 15th of 2019, I have written down, and there was a couple key people that didn't hear anybody talk about yet, but there's somebody named Jerome,
Mm-hmm.
a half elf. Did we talk about Jerome, a half elf, yet?
I don't think
I don't
so.
think so.
was he at Arcanix, or is that something.
I think he was at he ran one of the storage barns. And out
There's
there,
a yeah.
yeah.
And did we talk about Enceladus's enrollment yet? Because
Not yet.
that happened, I think, before the part that
Yeah.
I have
Okay.
Right.
where I pick up. So we have to talk about Enceladus's.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how that came about. I think we were looking for information on how we could possibly.
Right. So
treat.
I think you helping a merchant on the road between Passage and Arcanics, he took you to his big storage warehouse, and that was Jerome. And he said that he said, well, you could try and ask around the university to try and find him. But I think Jerome also said he had a brother who lived on a farm to the south. But that comes into play later. So you guys, he said you can stay in my warehouse as a thanks for kind of helping me get my wagon here, and I think you fended off some highway robbers or something like that. And he sort of was indebted to you, and he said you can stay here, that's no problem. And then the next day, some of you decided to go to the university to ask after Occam. And so the university in Arcanics is made of four floating towers for different disciplines of magic, and they truly are floating. They're very, they're kind of floating above the city. The whole city is built to feed the students and the faculty, house the faculty. So it's pretty much support for the university. That's the whole town of Arcanics. And so these merchant storage barns are holding grain, so they make bread to feed the kids at school. I say kids, but it's all ages. And they have a large influx of families and travelers who are either coming to visit loved ones that are enrolled at the school, or on the enrollment day, which is just so happened to be the day you were there. All of the students for the first time that were enrolling in the university, there were long lines, and there were teleportation pads where you would have to go through and get registered. And then if you passed all of the exams to get into the school, you were allowed to go up and be a part of the school, in the towers. And so everyone, I think I remember the group kind of decided, hey, maybe Enceladus would be the best at trying to enroll, because she's the most mage-like, magical-like, person in the group. And so that's when this older half vampire stood in line with a bunch of kids and and tried to enroll herself into a very prestigious magical university. And Wes, I'll let you take it from there if you remember what what happened.
I mean, I remember showing up and not being too wild about the idea of enrolling. So I tried to see if there was some other way I could get in, right? I just wanted to be able to access like their libraries, right? And
Yep.
I kind of wanted to we were trying to locate our friend, right? But we're also there to see if there's any information on a cure to lycanthropy. Is that also why we were there as
Mhm.
I
well?
mean, yeah, that was part of it. Because you assumed that Occam, if he made it to the university, would have gone and found the professors that would know, the alchemy professors that would know about the cure for lycanthropy. So
Yeah.
that was sort of where you thought to look or to ask around.
Yeah. So, I mean, I tried to get in by just turning into bats and seeing we could just fly up there, but the whole place is blocked off
Hmm.
through some sort of, spell or something like that. Um, so the only way really to access was to get in line, and so I just decided to do it, and so they took me through, I think, just a couple of like sort of very simple arcane magic type tests, which I passed, obviously,
Yep.
with flying colors,
Right.
to a point where they're like surprised that, like, they don't expect people to be performing that well who are just entering into this program, right?
Mm.
Um, so basically, I'm just sort of pretending too. Like I have this
Right.
facade. I pretending to be just like some new student or something, and like, oh yeah, I've just sort of played around with this magic stuff. It's pretty cool. Um, and then once I basically get in and have access, I think I start having a discussion with like one of
The
the
registrar.
professors. Yeah, the
Mhm.
registrar, is that yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of asking around about, someone with this description, um, describing Occam.
Yeah.
And I forget what they didn't seem to like be very helpful, right? Like I don't know, or did
Well,
they?
it wasn't that they were helpful. They just didn't. They had not seen anyone that met that description.
Yeah,
And so again, they weren't unhelpful. They just were unknowledgeable in that area. Y-
that's
Yeah, you did make it to the part of the college, that did have sort of an alchemy, part to it. And so you were able to ask questions of a particular professor who said, "Oh yeah, I remember having Occam as a student." And he said, "Well, lycanthropy. Let me see here." And he pulled some books down and he looked through them and he said, "Well, um, there is an old formula here, but it involves wolfsbane, which is an illegal substance." And
Okay.
so you sort of said, "Okay, good, have that info." And you were sort of, I think you said something like, "Well, if we get you these ingredients, will you be able to, make us a cure, just in case, sort of, if we do find Occam and he still is having problems, that you could give him the cure to lycanthropy." And the wizard said, "Oh, of course, yeah, but it is an illegal substance, and I wouldn't want to know where you got it." And yeah, so yeah, he kind of sent you on your way.
Yep. I remember at that point we decided to just start wandering around town, seeing if we could find places and asking people for wolfsbane.
Yeah.
And I think that we found someone who said that they could get it to us. Um, but I'm not sure if it was actually wolfsbane or not.
Well, there was an elf that ran an alchemy material shop, and she said, "I can't get that. That's completely illegal." And didn't she also, like, sort of also try to find it for you at the same time, or did I remember I remember that
Didn't we go on like a quest for it or something? Wasn't there a place where we could find it?
I remember Gers tried to like steal it from somewhere, or
Well, at
make
some point,
make
at
it.
some point, we ended up at a warehouse because that's where my notes pick up.
Okay.
Which was kind of funny that we were looking for wolfsbane in a warehouse. I know we had to be really cautious that it wasn't a full moon, because who knows what the warehouse would turn into.
Oh.
Hell house.
And since we were looking now for an illegal substance, I know that Cautious went
It's
into
exciting.
found a black market and
Mhm.
went off and explored a black market.
That's right.
I remember that part.
And then he went to Korth to find the wolfsbane. We decided there was nothing in this town, so he left.
Well, didn't he buy a bag of oregano?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think I think he got out of a little bit of money for some spices that you would put on bread.
That may be. I do know then the group found a halfling alchemist who might be able to help Occam.
Mhm.
But he says they need to actually find Occam to determine his current state.
Mhm.
And then at that point, Vakias sent an animal messenger, a hawk, to Cautious to tell him they didn't need wolfsbane anymore because the halfling actually had some. And so as they're heading out, I think to I guess to find Occam, Jerome, the half elf, he runs up and tells them, the remaining group, that he needs help. So Celestine, Rook, Phidias, Enceladus, and Jerome head out, and Jerome has found a were minotaur on the road, devouring some horses and people.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like our guy.
So they engage him. Enceladus hits him, and he charges. He turns back into Occam.
Mm-hmm.
They realize this is Occam. Celestine starts talking with him, telling him of the possible cure. And Occam says, "You need to put me, quote, you need to put me down. There's no cure for this." And then Phidias has a time when he's talking to Occam, which is kind of funny because that's Doug talking to old Doug, Phidias talking to Occam.
Nothing unusual with me.
Yeah. So the group decides they need to beat him down so that they can subdue him. They knock him down, and then at that point, Bacchius hadn't been there. He runs up and he sees Occam for the first time, and there's kind of a revelation moment, like Bacchius is seeing his brother.
Yep.
So they decide to carry him back into town despite the protests of Jerome. Occam is he's mostly dead in this state. And it seems it would take like a resurrection spell to awake him. They get to the city. The city guard won't allow a lycanthrope into the city, but they allow Enceladus to go into the city and find the halfling who thinks that he can find a cure that has wolfbane. So Enceladus goes in back to Arcanus, talks to somebody at the lift, gets a message to the halfling, but he isn't done preparing the wolfsbane, and he tries to send her away. He tries to send Enceladus away. I don't know, at this point, Enceladus was a little hysterical or something, because the attendant at the lift also becomes worried and runs away. I don't know if you remember anything about that. I don't have details written down. Wes?
They were trying to send me away.
Yeah, no, you went to like the lift attendant and you were trying to get up to talk to the halfling, and for some reason the attendant like got scared of you and ran away.
I'm kind of scary looking because I have tattoos all over my face. And...
Especially if you want something.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's true. That's right. I think it was just someone who doesn't like vampires or Bryloka.
Yeah.
Like,
one of those rare people that doesn't like vampires.
Right. The whole city is afraid of lycanthropy and vampirism, no big deal.
right. I do remember that day. It was weird.
So Enceladus ends up returning to the group in failure. And they want to protect Occam. So Phidias goes into town to get a big chain. And the guards don't want to let Occam go. They just want to dispose of him. Cautious finally comes back, so everybody's there. And they're still at this farmhouse, and there's this big standoff. Enceladus has the most awkward conversation ever with the elevator attendant.
Yeah.
I don't know if they came back at that point or what. But finally, Hale the halfling finally finishes up with the wolfsbane and comes out to the farmhouse and evaluates Occam. So Occam takes and I don't know if Hale like administers some wolfbane or what, but Occam takes a deep breath in, awakes, and says, "You remember what Occam says?"
Nope.
"You should have left me dead."
Oh.
And Hale says, "Nonsense, my boy. We're close to figuring this out." And after consulting with Celestine regarding his symptoms, Hale takes the group aside and tells them there's no hope. He has to be put down. Bacchius wants to speak with him first. Understandably. And Jeremiah's not here. I don't remember if anybody remembers that conversation, Doug. If you guys role played that or what happened with that.
Remember much. That Jeremiah were here, we could kind of wrap that out. I'm sure that he'd remember it and be a little more fresher in his memory. I think for Occam, there's so much water under the bridge. I'm sure that there was some heart buys. Occam knew that he was done for. There was just no saving him, and being a cleric and a healer and a protector, he ultimately like a complete failure in everything he had tried to become, because he was really his own worst enemy. So he was ready to die.
Yeah.
And at this point, you were fully role playing Occam at this point, or was the DM role playing Occam at this point?
No, I remember kind of taking the reins on this and just kind of riding it out to the end.
Yeah,
Definitely had hearty hand of the DM's help.
I remember Vakias thanking his brother for protecting him, because that was sort of the role. The protector role was what Occam had done for Vakias, and Occam was sad and sorry that he couldn't protect him in the end, and they were separated, and there sort of was this touching sort of kind of tie up to that side of the story, and sort of a passing on of the idea of finding the end of the lab, or the center of the labyrinth, or kind of that kind of story theme too.
Yeah. Well, while this is going on, Celestine borrows a silver sword from one of the guards that is standing nearby, kind of, I think, preparing. And at this point, Occam has no energy to embrace his brother, but says to finish the labyrinth for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then Celestine tells Occam that Orla is safe, and he's happy he's surrounded by his friends at the end of his life. And then I have written down Jake, probably Jake too, burps really loudly.
Holy cow.
During the most touching moment of team
Because we were camping, weren't we?
No,
this is not camping. This is like a few weeks later. Yeah. But then they continue on. Occam speaking his last words to Enceladus. Do you remember what you said, Doug?
Did you write it down?
I did. Okay, so Enceladus says, I'm sorry, it was Wes who said it. Enceladus says, I'm sorry, it was Occam. To Enceladus, I hope you find what you're looking for. Maybe we'll meet again. Turns to Celestine, says, I'm ready. Celestine vows to protect the party and says, goodbye, friend. Vakias says, goodbye, brother. Occam leans back against the pillar, and Celestine stabs him through the heart. And without a sound, Occam passes away. Malver Klimt.
Yeah, that was a pretty I like how that all went. I mean, you guys played those roles really well. You played it how I felt like the honoring of Occam's character needed to go. Like, I felt like that was really a really neat way to let him go. And then to be able to carry on the few things that he wanted carried on, but in a way that was really honoring him. And I was so I'd prepared you to fully fight Occam, fight him to the death. I was rolling, to see if he was overcome by lycanthropy in those moments, and whether he was out of control or in control. And the dice made the ruling that Occam was in control, but also not getting better. And so he, at very key moments when he could have just gone crazy and become a liability to the point where you guys had no other option but to fight him. The roles allowed him to not have an end that ended in chaos, but an end that ended in comfort and in friendship, which I thought was interesting because it could have gone totally differently. You guys could have been all wound up and swinging swords at your once close companion, and I don't know. I don't know. I like how the dice allowed the story to end well and not in a way that was unsatisfying. So
Know that part of the story. So the dice don't lie.
mm-mm. No, they tell the story that needs to be told. So do you guys remember what Vakias did to bury him?
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I remember because I wrote it down.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But does
Go ahead.
anybody else?
I remember that the grave that they did for Occam was a labyrinth. Um, Didn't he raise some stones and kind of create the labyrinth in such a way that no strangers could ever find the center of the labyrinth?
Mhm. Yep.
His body could lay at rest undisturbed.
Yep. Vakias has the ability to raise stones, and the way he wanted to raise stones and bury Occam was to put him at the center of a labyrinth that was magical, that no ordinary person could find the center of, and it would be an honor to his fallen brother.
So he wanted to give him a minotaur grave, and where it was, they find a grove that was lit by the now full moon.
Mm.
And so he created the labyrinth tomb ring, and he brought Occam inside himself, and then he traced the tomb, tracing the tomb on his arm. He creates a spell that anyone who enters become lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's different than just not being able to solve it. You get lost in this this labyrinth. Maybe you'll die in it. I don't know. Who knows? I'm sure those are my exact words, but
Yeah.
uh,
So that was the passing of Occam. Probably not just one of my most vivid memories of the campaign, but one of my most vivid memories. Like it was like significant event. These characters that we created in play, like they actually affect you.
It
Here it
was
is years later, and I'm still getting choked up about it.
it was
Yeah.
pretty
Feel
emotional.
lost over that. Sad. But it was good to get the closure of that character, though,
Mhm.
and to not
Yeah.
have that being out there like forever.
Right.
There was that like we tried everything we possibly could,
Mm-hmm.
and Occam, it's what Occam wanted at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. One of my favorite moments of this whole campaign so far was that. Not that it was a super happy moment, but that it was a really true moment. And I appreciated the collaboration it took to bring it full circle and to allow him a warrior's death the way that he would want it.
It's interesting too that like two of the most significant and emotional moments in the campaign so far have been when Occam left
Mm-hmm.
himself, took himself away, and then much later when Occam finally died.
Mhm.
And it was months, if not years, between those events.
Mm-hmm.
Probably find the
At least
exact
years,
dates.
because at game time even, because we Occam left. We went to Solitude. A couple of years had passed.
Yeah.
And still
Yeah.
roaming the countryside. So it had been some decent length of game time there for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. So, in the spirit of tying up loose ends, you guys were in a region of the world where you also knew Silverbell to live, and so the other one who got lycanthropy because of you guys, or at least because of your adventures, not directly because of you, but you said, "Hey, well, we wonder how he's doing." Because obviously, we tied up this scenario with Occam, and he didn't do so well. Um, so Gers said, "Hey, I got something to do. I might see you guys later. I might not." You didn't actually say anything. You left without saying goodbye. He left the party, and the rest of the group said, "Hey, let's go a little bit further south, and to the specific location where you found Silverbell's actual house for the first time around." And does anyone remember that encounter?
That one's actually really vivid for me.
Mm,
Yeah, I remember walking up to the door of the house and um um what are those old fashioned like I don't know what you call them,
the
like
door.
knock on.
It was magical. Was
Yeah,
it shaped like the face of a demon or something like that?
yeah, that's what I remember.
But I remember as a party, we're thinking maybe we should check in on Silverbell because the idea of a were-lich be really dangerous and
Yeah, I remember
just
we're like, okay, if it went this far south for Occam, obviously Silverbell's not doing so great, and we feel kind of responsible for unleashing a were-lich upon the world, so we should probably go take care of that.
And you didn't have his phylactery at this point, his bell.
No,
You had
he
given
had his phylactery, so
he
we
had
knew
his
that we
bell.
had to go to his house and deal with that.
Right.
I remember the door knocker talking to us. I don't remember the specifics of that. If anybody else does.
Yeah, the door knocker was the house demon. He lived in every object in the house, and as you entered, he continued to show up in different pieces of the house and talk to you as you were walking down the hallways. And he yeah, I mean, he possessed the house, um which that's that's the character of this demon. And so every object that you would come across, this face would emerge from it and talk to you. And he was fairly friendly, for a demon. It seems like the house, like he's bound in the house, like he's not loose. Um, he is sort of bound in all of the items and objects of the house. And then he said, "Well, the master's away, but I- I'll prepare a spread for you if you just follow me." And he kept appearing in things going down the hallway as you guys, kind of followed him. Um, and didn't you? Did Silverbell show up before you made it into the basement, or did he? Do you guys remember how that went down?
I think he showed
I,
up before we made it to the basement.
I thought we were sent to dinner and it was like a really nice spread, a decent sized hall, and then he showed up. Am I misremembering that? He showed up. We were having dinner.
The point is, there was a really huge, beautiful spread of exotic foods, and you somehow were ushered into his basement, which was sort of his main, trophy room slash man cave slash huge,
Lich
like
Cave.
yeah, exquisite dining hall. And so you're sitting eating exotic cheeses and wines and fruits that come from different continents. And he has display cases all around the outside of the walls, sort of inset in these this frieze. with candle lighting and things like that, and they are of relics that all of you were looking at, going, I can't believe you have that, like that. What that how did you get that? And he's like, oh yeah, no, that's the Dawn Star. It's this that and the other, the most sought after blade ever. And he just is. He tells you about every single one of the artifacts that he's found and where he's found it, and he truly is a world an interplanar traveler, and he collects fancy things and dangerous and rare things. And I was thinking the whole time when we were telling this story that Gers Joe would have loved to be there.
I was just thinking, I can't. It's so good that I wasn't there, because I would have been after all of that stuff.
Yeah, the house demon would have been all over you.
Well, it also sounds like, with that house demon and the furniture and stuff, it kind of sounds like if he was singing "Be Our Guest," it sounds a bit like Beauty and the Beast, with all the furniture talking to you and the food, and it sounds very fun.
Yeah,
I would have really screwed it up if I was there.
It also was inspired by Alice in Wonderland, or was it Alice in Wonderland, the Disney version, where she grabs the doorknob and it yells at her,
Yeah.
like.
Or was that Labyrinth?
I was thinking,
could be.
like A Christmas Carol with the
Yes.
door knocker turning into like Jacob Marley's face and kind of talking
Yeah.
to Scrooge.
Yeah, all of those were inspiration for that. I really like the idea of having this incredibly powerful demon that is bound to a house. Like his binding is to physical objects, and he is so powerful within those physical objects, but he can't be anything more than a coat rack or a closet door or a rug. But he can be the best rug that you've ever seen, and the most helpful coat rack that you've ever seen, and the best kitchen utensils you've ever seen. And he can also be wily and intimidating in what he says and what he knows, but can be little more effective than a wooden spoon. So I'm so glad I was able to put that concept, that character concept, in this house of treasures. So you guys find that Silverbell is perfectly okay with his lycanthropy. He has managed it to the point where he can kind of just like, he can live with it, and he enjoys it.
Yeah.
He's living an amazing existence as a once a month werewolf. And he goes out and hunts, and he does all the cool things that werewolves do, and it doesn't make him go crazy. He doesn't have to roll like these crazy checks. He has his disease pretty well handled.
And I remember him,
thing, right?
remember him saying that it enhanced his strength, which is typical Lich. They're after something more.
Right.
And so somehow the conversation also came up with, hey, if you ever run into a vampire, let me know, because I'd like some of that too.
Yeah.
That his lust for knowledge and power and experience was very pressing in his presence and his desire of what he wanted, which plays in a little bit later.
And I think we also decided that the person that needed to have the phylactery was Celestine, because he was the least likely to be in a situation where it could be easily taken from him. Because that was a pretty powerful phylactery, and we decided, okay, we'll take it with us, and if we see anything cool, or if we go to Solitude and run into the one true creator again, we'll summon you. That way you can come check things out.
He gave us the phylactery in case we ran into a vampire.
Right.
Yeah.
All like, hey, if you run into one, call me. I'm on it.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't there, but it sounds to me like Captain No Fun said, hey, give me that phylactery. None of you are responsible enough to hold this.
Yeah, essentially. Captain No Fun, okay.
It's the yeah, the rules Nazi who is taking charge of the rules that could go out of control. Jeremiah, welcome. Now we're actually going to start over, and we're going to retell the story of the last hour with Jeremiah. No, I'm just
No.
joking. Machias, we just told the story of the passing of your brother Occam, and it was really emotional and wonderful. Do you like, just to rewind just for a couple seconds here? Do you remember anything that impacted you about that scene?
I just remember um, getting to talk to Occam before his last breaths, and being able to kind of, whether he actually was my brother or not, it was nice to be able to speak to him and be there for him to die, so we could get closure. I could get closure, um, and then it was also really nice to be able to bury him in such a traditional way.
Yeah, building that magical labyrinth with him at the center. Yeah, that's sort of how we kind of felt in our recap of it and our remembrance of how that went down too. Yeah, we were kind of talking about how that was one of the most powerful moments in the game to date, and how beautiful that was. And I'm really glad all of us were able to be a part of that for that moment. So, and
It was a really great welcoming of my character.
yeah, it was for sure. And so we talked about that too, because you brought a spider to Lord Albertus's bachelor party, and you got stabbed a couple times, and the party felt like they should maybe give a little bit to you before they ask you for more for more help. And so we tied up one of your backstory items very quickly in the beginning of your experience here in the party, which was kind of unique and kind of cool. So, but now we're talking about the wunderkind that is Silver Bell. I'm surprised that no one asked him what his actual name was when you were there at his house. Do you guys remember if you did or not?
All that we did, and I don't think we assumed to ask.
I don't know if we actually did. If we did, I don't think he was willing to tell us.
I'm pretty sure we didn't.
It sounds like a relevant and pertinent and important question, and that's not the type of question that this group ever asks.
That's true. That's totally true.
We just kind of trust that things are the way they are for a reason.
Okay, yeah.
We're dumb.
Well,
Okay,
that guy's name is Cautious.
Okay, we roll with it.
I do remember that he said you could stay there, but he had to go out and hunt because it was a full moon. The night before was sort of he said I have stuff to do, and he kind of left, and you kind of there was a scene of him sort of kind of turning into a werewolf as he was kind of bounding through the field into the edge of the forest, as you guys kind of saw him go for the night, and then you woke up, and I think you headed back to Korth.
It makes me wonder about a couple Eberron things.
Yeah.
This a small tangent, because Eberron has 12 moons, and so it's oftentimes for werewolves often freak out because there's almost always a moon that's full or close to full. And there's probably a good reason or a good answer, but I don't know how they figure out the months in Eberron. Because if there's so many moons, did they just pick one of them?
Isn't there one moon per month? Like one moon is full per month?
It could be. I don't know. There's probably some Eberron experts out there, but I'm going to look it up too, so that maybe we can. I don't know, that's just Eberron geek stuff.
What was that, Jeremiah?
I wonder if it has anything to do with a curse, if it's on a specific moon of the 12 moons, or if it is triggered like any moon, kind of like in Dragon Ball Z when they turn into monkeys on any moon.
Yeah, sure.
Well, if all the viewers have played lycanthropes in Eberron before, let us know how you did it, how it worked out.
The lunar cycles, or something that I didn't, and I was thinking about this with the lycanthropy, but I just sort of assumed that there was one full moon per month, and it was a different moon every month, and that's where you got your 12 months, and that's where you got your lunar cycles. I did imagine the sky to look like the sky in Skyrim, which always, or in in Tamriel, in the Elder Scrolls world, which always has at least three very giant to very small multicolored moons all over the place, an incredibly large sea of stars too. And so I always figured that your average layman would just look up at the sky and see at least 3 or 4 moons every night, only one of them close to full, and all the rest of them sort of partial. Some of them sort of in conjunction with each other, some of them giant and blue, some small and red, some bright green. But you would see this just incredible celestial spread every night, and whether it took a wizard who's actually studied the lunar patterns to really know what was going on. Everyone else was sort of like, oh wow, that's really beautiful and it's new every night, sort of thing. Unless you actually spent the time to study the lunar cycles and study what moons were where, and which ones were in line with each other and things like that. So
Sounds like dragon's business to me.
sounds like dragon's business, right?
All right, tangent over. Thank you.
Tangent over. You're welcome. But look it up, because it would be nice to know if there is someone who has come up with an answer to when moons are full, with there being 12, maybe 13 moons in the sky.
Keith, when you watch this, maybe just Keith Baker, just put it in the comments. Let us know, or hit us up.
There are two answers. The two answers that Keith would give. One is I already wrote it down, and two, I leave that for you to figure out.
Eberron, yeah.
I think we already answered it. Thank you, Keith, in advance for this answer.
That's right. You're
anyway,
awesome.
so Silver Bell is a powerhouse, and you now have his bell, his phylactery, where you can summon him again, but only in the moment when you are encountering a vampire, so that he can not only be a lycanthrope, he can also be a vampire at the same time, which is amazing. Also possible in Skyrim, which was my inspiration, but fun nonetheless. Hard to do, fun to do.
Interesting hybrid.
Yes, interesting hybrid. A lot of limitations and a lot of power. So anyway, so what did you guys went back to Korth after that? You're still looking. So you go back to Korth and you think, hey, we let Albertus think that he got away with it. Let him sort of think the heat is off. And you went back to try and box more ears.
No, we remembered that Celestine, as being a part of being a Grey Guard, is that he's actually trained in Streetwise, and Celestine decides to go do a little bit of recon in Korth to see if Albertus actually is the guy. And he isn't. So we decide to leave Albertus alone entirely and go pursue a new lead.
That's right.
And remind me and the viewers what it is we're seeking in Korth. Why are we bothering with the assistant to the head lamplighter of Korth?
We are trying to get counsel with the king.
Yep.
The king of Korth.
We were given a task by the 12 to seek out the king of Korth, because kind of missing in action, or quiet, or not around, and they were concerned about his missing presence. And so we were supposed to find out information about, is the king on, what's he up to, that kind of a thing.
And it's King Third, from Karnath. He is the king of Karnath. And he has a heritage and a lineage stretching back to before the Great War. At that point, brothers and sisters were were given parts of Corvair, the whole continent, to run. They all fought and argued with each other over who was in charge of everything, and that started the Great War. I think I remember that correctly. Um, but there was one point. Do you guys remember when you were going over through the forest to Ellencaster to the north of Forth, and you saw a statue of Caius the First, who was the great, or was the grandfather of Caius the Third, and he's holding a spear, and everything looks all fine and good, and you kind of looked at it, and Phidias said, he looks really similar to Caius the Third.
Been in one of the libraries in Korth, and portraits of the king, the first and the second and the third, and noticed that the gene pool must be very strong because they all look very similar.
Very similar.
Eerily
Very,
similar.
very similar. Anyway, so Celestine's source gave him a name, or did he give him a name, or just some features of like, hey, this is who you look for and where you'll find him?
If I recall, I got a pretty good roll. I got name, features, and where to find him.
That's right. He is a gnome, or was it a gnome or a halfling?
It was a halfling.
Halfling. A halfling who was wearing dirty overalls and was looking pretty disheveled, and his name is Gib Bagwell, and you could find him at the Writhing Rock Grub.
So we went back.
So you went back to drink some more Johnny Page.
Johnny Page.
And try to find one of the most unassuming, dirty-looking NPCs that has ever been in the game. And he is a potato farmer, but also a lead to just about everything amazing and underground and behind the scenes in Korth. And he says, "Oh yeah, no, I can totally get you into the castle. That's no problem at all." And he gives you coordinates, a place to meet outside of the castle wall. And he says there'll be a rope hanging down, and pop right in and do what you'll do, and that's what'll happen. So you
Coming
guys,
up is one of our favorite D&D moments too.
yes, right. So you can go ahead and take the story from there if you remember.
Well, it's a little bit further in, but essentially we head on up, and at this point we ended up having Jake do kind of the same thing that he did last time, didn't we?
Yeah.
We gave him the invisibility potion as his way out, if there was any of it left, and we sent Jake 2 on another recon mission with no metagaming from us.
So actually, I have to set the timeline straight. So last time we talked about the time when we sent Jake to Rook into the undead city of necromancers, and that actually happens after this instance. So this was the first time we sent him in alone by himself and gave him some invisibility potion. So
okay, yeah.
The even funnier part was when it happened a second time in this really dangerous necromantic city. But the first time was this time. You were all on a balcony outside of the castle. There's a wall, some guard towers, a rope was down. You were given instructions about the guard rotation, and you all started either climbing up this rope, and then you were in this sort of this terrace that was kind of attached to the side of the castle wall, the interior wall. And there was just a double door, and you guys kind of do a little peeking in and trying to figure out what exactly is going on. And is that the point when you sent Rook in with just an invisibility potion and a plan?
Yeah, I think previously, I mean, I got so excited about talking about Rook going in there with an invisibility potion and no plan. But we actually had Enceladus and Vakias fly around
Oh yeah,
in,
right.
initially so that we could get an idea of, maybe where the king was.
Hmm.
But at this point, it was hard to tell because there were a lot of windows. All of them had the curtains drawn, and we didn't really want to make any mistakes and announce our presence. So that's why we sent in Rook, to be sneaky and with an invisibility potion to really go find out where he was.
Yep. Yeah, I had made a really a pretty complex castle with multi levels and with several closed doors and things that he had to check and find. And he kind of sniffed around, and then he barely missed some guards, and then he came back. And did he discover what did he discover? I'm trying to remember. Did he discover like where the main hall was, or did he go down like did he go to the lower quarters or the basement?
I don't think he went into the basement. We figured that the main hall where the king would be more than likely wouldn't be in the basement.
Yeah.
But I don't
The
remember
objective
what
was
happened
just to
after
find the
that.
main hall.
Yeah, I mean, you were definitely looking for the king. Um and you found where the main hall was, where the throne room was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he came back before you guys all went into that room. And so in full force in, sort of the evening, you guys kind of walked through right straight to the main hall. Um and was the king on his throne? I
No, I
remember
think
the
someone else was on the throne.
Yeah, I don't think the king was he not there, or so there was
He was
someone else there, right?
throne, but he was really weak. Like
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
out of it, out of touch, something was strange and
Yes.
off. And
yeah,
there was a woman consort who was
right.
Yes.
keeping
Yeah.
him company and kind of being the puppeteer, pulling the strings a little bit.
Yeah, her name was Lady Sersha Hyron, and she was the new like um personal assistant to the king. um right, in air quotes. And she was very cold and very calculating and very trying to be very manipulative to you guys. And at some point she just basically like she said things about the blood of Vol and was trying to kind of validate what was going on in the castle, and sort of said, she got frustrated and then just started to send the servants after you, and you realized quickly that the servants were under her control, and they were kind of zombie like. They were thrall like in their actions. And so you fought a bunch of thrall and her. But did she escape before she died? I think
Um,
I'm trying to remember if she actually died or if she escaped. She turned into something. Didn't she turn into something like a second stage? I'm trying to remember.
But I remember she escaped from this
we
particular
thought that she
instance and
is.
had to chase her up the tower or something like that.
Yeah,
We
right.
thought
That's
that she
what-
escaped, but she just kind of transformed, if I recall.
yeah, I think that's totally true. Um, and didn't she escape behind a door behind the throne?
Yeah, there was like a secret passage behind the throne.
Yeah, and so then you guys went upstairs, and you found the royal bedchamber, and there were cages with humans in the royal bedchamber, and you saw Caius the Third, and he was weeping over a woman. He was weeping over his wife,
Hmm.
and she had been sacrificed and bled dry. And you faced Saoirse again and killed her this time. They were more thrall,
The
and
important
so
thing though is that we knew what she was, and
yeah,
we
Call
summoned.
Silverbell
We
in
called
to help out.
Silverbell. I don't remember if it was at the end of the encounter or mid encounter, but
yep,
Captain No Fun knew that it was time to have some fun.
yep. You rang the bell. You brought Silverbell in, and I'm trying to remember now if he was bitten, he actually was bitten by the vampire, or whether it was a no go. Do you guys remember what happened?
Oh, it.
No, he did get bit, and he was really happy about
He
it.
was stoked.
Yeah.
Oh man.
He kind of high-fived us on the way out, actually.
All
Yeah.
right,
Man.
all right.
Wait. Well, so what happened with this phylactery? Do you still have it?
Yep.
So Celestine still has it.
Celestine has it, which is a critical piece of info, but
Yep, that'll be important by the end of the night.
it will be by the end of the night for sure. Yes.
I
So
have no idea.
you sort of check in on Caius the Third, and he is crying, and he says, I can't believe, I killed my wife. I have this, affliction, and he's just sort of in an absolute state because of his problems with vampirism, and he's having a real difficult time. And I'm trying to remember how you left him, whether you guys said, it looks like we fulfilled our duty to the 12, so I guess we have to go back and report it.
Well, we explained to him why we came was at the behest of the 12 to make sure that he was okay. Clearly, he was not. And so jumping in was a good thing. I think we were sad about his pain, but we had made a good connection with him, even though he was grieved at the time. Just as a side note here, by the way, because he's a vampire and we figured that out, it's part of the reason why first, the second, and the third king all look the same because it's the same guy. He basically will live a life up to a certain point and then kind of pretend to let something happen, so he dies, and then his son assumes the throne, and so that's kind of how that carries on. So it looks normal for his subjects, who are not vampires; they're mostly human.
I do have to say that there were several hooks you guys passed up, and there is a very large amount of story that I wrote about this whole situation that you guys could have pursued, which is totally fine that you didn't. But there is so much more there to get entangled in the future if you want to. But that's the way the story has gone did not allow for that to happen. So his moment of mourning and sadness looks a little bit shallow in our story, but there's a lot of depth to it, and there's a lot more to be had there if needed. So anyway, so you pat him on the head and say, sorry for your loss, we're glad you're here. And I think this is the point when you guys go to Artur, and try to figure out where the dead bodies are coming from, and what's going on at Artur, which is something we told last time.
Slightly out of order.
Slightly out of order, but still within the same sort of period. So, so if you want to hear about that, we won't go over it again. But if you want to hear about that, you can listen to it in the previous episode, out of order. No big deal. Anyway, you make it back to the 12 at that point, and what do they say?
Great question.
They say John the Purple, like it's Tankus the Silent, who is House Civis mage, who only speaks to people via telepathy. She said John the Purple, who was sort of the impromptu leader after Usador went through the portal and you saw him and betrayed him mightily.
What? What?
Oh, come
Hang on.
on.
I'm
I
just
don't
kidding.
remember that part.
You guys left him to die, which is fine, no big deal. Not a major
We'll
plot
go
point.
back to save him.
He
Come
died,
on.
but did he actually die?
It's only been like 2 hours since you've been there, so
He's
Yeah, for
probably
real.
He's probably
Right.
still fighting.
he's probably still
He's
fighting, yeah.
probably only on his second death save, guys. It's fine.
This, for those who have missed it, this is due to the time difference between the plane of solitude and the plane of Eberron, where in Eberron, what is it, 14 days passed?
It's 1 to 28. That's the rate.
1 to 28. So 1 day in solitude is 28 days in Eberron.
Yes. Yeah, which is a pretty harsh difference when it comes down to it. But yeah, given the time that you've spent now sort of doing some adventuring in Eberron after you left, it might only have been a few days in solitude, which is a little crazy to get your mind around. So Usador could still be alive at this point, but they needed to pick a new leader after 2 years of him, being gone or whatever. It actually wasn't 2 years because he left not too long after you guys returned. So anyway, so John the Purple took over for Usador, and she, given your information about the dragons and the giants and the Serrani, she decided to go to Arganessen, where the dragons reside, which is a different continent, and to sort of ask questions of the dragons about what they think we should do, given the information. And so she left, and this was all the while you were trying to find Occam, laying him to rest, finding Silverbell, messing around at a bachelor party, all these fun things. You came back to the Citadel in Korth, the Citadel of the 12, and Tankus the Silent informed you, hey, Jaunt left a little while ago. We don't know where she is, but also Eamon Wolfskin is missing. He, if you remember, took the Rod of Chaos from Enceladus's claw-like fingers, and said he would make it safe, and put it somewhere where it wouldn't bother people. And he has not been seen in a while. Expectation was he was going to be back, and Tankus said he went to the Eldine Reaches, and so go and ask around and see if you can find his trail and find where he went and bring him back, or you can go and search, track down, why Jaunt hasn't been back from Arganessen. So you have 2 missing mages from the 12, and they're in 2 opposite directions on the map. And you guys first decide to go to find Eamon Wolfkin.
And a quick side note: when
Yes.
Vakias joined our party, that was our first annual D&D trip, or we would go camping.
Camping trip, yeah.
The rescue or the search for Wolfskin was an entire year later.
Entire year.
That was partially due to us being busy at life and COVID, trying to figure out how to play remotely. So we've already gone through a whole year in this stream.
Yep. Half of it, which we were really trying to find a way to still play D&D, but play it remotely. Learning about all of the different, learning along with all of you viewers, how to use Zoom, how to use all of the technology that we now sort of know real well and take for granted for meeting virtually.
And we had partially been doing that already. Jake too moved to California, and we didn't want to uninclude him from our group. And so we had already been using Discord to to include Jake into our group. You know, we'd set up a laptop and a camera and a chair for him even, and that would be Jake's spot at the table. But this time around, we were all laptops at a table, so it took us a little bit of time to figure that part out.
Mm-hmm. But as you'll see in the story, because we were remote, it made us more accessible to our families and our home lives, and so we were able to play every week rather than every other week. So there is a lot of stories still left to tell, even though it's taken us a year. You know, in the last we've recapped a year in the last hour and a half. So anyway, the group decides to go find Eamon Wolfskin, and they head towards the Eldine Reaches again, which, if you remember from recap 3-ish, that's where they found the old, the ancient druid tree, and where they jumped through a portal to Solitude for the first time.
Let's
at,
go.
at the request of Nargu Rockturner. Um,
Let's go to the map.
so yeah, if you can bring the map up, I can splash again.
Just
Or
a second here.
not a problem.
All right, go ahead, and I think I know where the Eldine Reaches are.
You were right, viewers, by the way. The name of the giant tree that was Olean, but that's not necessarily the name of the tree that we met.
Okay, do
Right.
you want to splash where you want me to be, Justin?
Yep. We're just talking about Eldine Reaches right here. Somewhere to the west of Greenheart was where you were directed to look for Eamon.
All right, and this time, let me know when you're done with the map. I won't leave the map up for 20 minutes this time.
I'm finished with the map.
Okay.
You captured the okay, got it. Got it. So yeah. It is Olean, and I think I did mention that in our campaign, but not in our recap. The name reminds me too much of the chemical Olestra, which was put in potato chips in the 90s, which gave you
Yep.
diarrhea. So I decided not to use that name very much because Olean and Olestra were too much connected in my head. So anyway, that's
whatever for.
DM's preference. We're gonna use something else. We're gonna go a different direction. Druidic diarrhea is not my not what I want to do. So anyway, so you were directed to a clearing in an area of the forest west of Greenheart, and you walk into this clearing, and there's a giant pool in the middle of these trees, and at the end of the pool is a white tiger. You guys remember this?
What?
I do.
A white tiger.
I remember the white tiger.
Yeah, it's one of Eamon's friends.
Yeah, so you walk around the edges of this crystal clear deep pool, and this tiger gets up and stretches, and she introduces herself.
Yeah, okay.
And she says, I'm Uriel Yazana, and I am a friend of Eamon Wolfskin's. And then she turns into a woman.
Joe, I think you might have been too excited about setting up your hammock.
This was camping. Yeah.
This was at camping?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do not remember.
This was like another like top D&D experience. Just to we'll get to it. There's a couple of things I wanted to highlight that Justin did that just really made it an excellent excellent experience.
About a tiger.
This tiger was supposed to intimidate, and then to thrill, and then to instruct, and that's kind of how it hit. And so she sort of shows up and says, see this pool in front of me. She has a camp set up for you, and she says, please, feel free to sit around the fire and rest up before you enter. And you guys are kind of like, I don't, what's going on, but we'll rest a little bit, I guess. And I think your decision was, oh no, we're good. We'll go. Like we're not gonna lay down with this giant white tiger. We just want to get on with it. Um, and so she says, well, you see this pool in front of you. It's a mere illusion. You can step into it, and you will step into this portal to the place that Aemon was taking the rod, and so you sort of touch the water, and it's incorporeal, but it looks like water, and you end up walking down these sort of stairs into, I think it was stairs. Do you guys remember what or maybe you swam down in, or I don't know. I don't remember.
Dropped in and went down to the bottom of the pool, and then kind of just popped out at the bottom into this new place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We hadn't found the well yet.
No, we haven't found the well.
This was an actual water, because there was a different thing for the actual water.
Right. This was an actual water, but somehow you sort of slowly ascended down through the pool, or sorry, descended down through the pool and popped out into this this just glittering, beautiful, verdant realm area. And she basically said, "Hey, this is like it's like a road that has a dead end. It is a manifest zone that doesn't go all the way through to another plane. It actually stops." And so Aemon was going to send the rod to the very end of this plane, or this roadway, and then seal it off so no one could get to it. So it would be between planes. It wouldn't actually be in another plane. And so she says, see if he made it through, and bring him back.
Did she give did she say who she was, or how she knew Aemon or anything like that? Because I don't remember the tiger.
Sort of. She kind of alluded that they were romantic. Like she sort of kind of said like something like I would love to see him again, or something like that. I was hoping it was a very, very, very light allusion to the idea that they were special. They were special to each.
And so did we get the idea that this was like a druid who had some beast changing abilities?
Yep.
Well, yeah, she was a tiger, and then she turned into a woman, so we kind of knew that.
Figured it out, and then we also did pick up on the line about that kind of tight.
Yeah,
she said he was a skater boy.
That's right.
I'll see you later, boy.
Sorry.
All right.
Uptown girl. So
this is going well.
Yeah, it's going great. We're just at the beginning of this, and we haven't even made it in. She did say that she would follow you guys, like follow with you guys.
As far as she
could, yeah. And so she did. She went in her tiger form with you to the first level. Do you guys remember what the first level? Like she said, this is a multi-tiered, like multi-tiered, dimensional portal, and it doesn't quite go to another plane, but it very much takes you on a journey in a direction, and it goes up and down and up and down. It goes in to a deep hole. Do you guys remember?
I remember the first area was a wooded area that was kind of surrounded by water, and there were different. I don't recall. I think there was a bridge.
Or something.
Yeah, there was a bridge, and there were lots
of different bridges.
Yep.
Yeah, there were lots of lizard people there.
There were a lot of lizard people that could throw spears, and you kind of either passed the spear throwers without getting hit, or encountered and destroyed the spear throwers. on your way to a well that was at the end. And so the well at the end, did you guys have a rope, or how did you I'm
That's
trying to
right.
remember.
To,
There was
like
already
descendant.
there was already something attached, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to remember, because you guys do have rope in your adventuring gear, and I
Mhm.
thought at one point you're like, how long is this rope, and how long is this, like, and I don't remember if it's this point in the story. You had, I think there was rope, like, there would be a bell bucket.
Hold on, Justin, your audio is
Yeah.
cutting out.
Yeah.
Sorry, is it better
It
now?
was just
Yeah.
Okay.
Better.
Well bucket rope was what you guys used to get down through the
right.
well. Yeah. Once you climbed down the rope, was there a thing about Celestine, someone lowering Celestine down because it was so heavy, or was that on the way back?
remember there were some challenges with maybe with Celestine.
It was like all of us, multiple of us, to lower Celestine down, and he was going to tell us what he could see.
Hmm.
Kind of got down there, and
I think if I recall, we sent bats down there, did we not?
I know. I don't think I even needed to be lowered down, did I?
Yeah.
I don't think.
you went down to scout out. That's right, and then you came back to tell us what you saw.
Yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
what was the next level? Describe the next level.
So the next level was, as far as we could see, just water and a gigantic pyramid.
Yeah.
You're
Were there
out.
like scorpions or something like
There were alligators.
There
Or,
a
alligators?
bunch.
Right.
It was in the water, and then there was like
There was water that we dropped
snakes,
into.
like the snake people up on the stairs, like waiting for us to get there.
Yeah.
I just remember the alligators being much more brutal than I would expected of simple natural monsters.
but we did. So we made some tactical errors here.
Yeah.
We decided to fight the alligators in the water.
Yes.
At which point Celestine kind of rang the alarm, the "get the hell out of here" alarm, and started escorting everyone back up the lift.
Oh, right. I remember
At
that.
which point he was the last person down there, and we had to have another one of those kind of scary moments where we just kind of meta played. And Celestine was in the down but not out, and he was on the platform. And at which point you guys started getting nervous because you didn't really hear anything, and we're like, well, I think we would have gone down there to check on him, right? Right? Because
Yeah, I
everyone
remember
was sitting there thinking
That's
like, oh my God, Celestine's going to die. Um, and he probably would have, because these alligators had their grips on him. In which case they were like, he's on the platform, but he's out, and so you guys all hoisted him back up. Um, Aside from that, that moment was pretty scary for me as a player. In which case, after this camping trip, I told Justin I would like to make a backup character.
Oh no.
This was the experience that made me want to make Thrax. Because just like that, Celestine could have died.
Don't say stuff like that to the DM.
So,
I mean, which is my command, right?
so what happened after we had a good long rest and talked about how that was maybe not the best tactic we'd ever come up with? We decided to just lower our little Variloka friend down part way, and then just have her completely
Yep.
The alligators, right?
Yep.
the alligators, because we realized that there were a lot of snake people, and I mean a
Yeah.
lot of snake people on top of this pyramid.
And spiders,
Um, and spiders. So we decided, we think the terrain has a lot to do with the capabilities of these of these mobs, so let's take care of all of the alligators. And then we decided to use some of our tactical advantage from our friend Vakias by giving us some pillars to stand on that were still in the water, because the water was maybe only 2 feet deep.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
more
but we were able to hop from pillar to pillar and avoid direct contact from the alligators.
yeah, it was like thigh depth, so maybe 3 feet deep. But yeah,
And
it
the
was
pillars, how tall can my pillars get?
12
Or-
feet,
Yeah,
No, not 12 feet.
20 feet.
No, I think they're 10 feet tall.
yeah, I think they're 10. So we had 10-foot tall pillars that we could hop on that were in the water, because we decided let's not go and try and fight our way up the pyramid. That seems like a mistake. So we stayed in the water and were able to get a little bit of tactical advantage, because we figured we're in the water, the spiders aren't likely to come and try and get us. So we can blast the spiders and deal with the lizards from a range.
There was one cool thing I did with the spiders where I trapped them with my thorn ball, so that either they had to like go into the thorns and get damaged, or they had to go into the water to try and get us. And so we kind of pinned them, and were able to just keep hitting them. And that was really cool.
This was it was pretty difficult, but overall it was much better than Celestine almost dying and us running away.
Exactly.
Trying to fight alligators in the water.
Yeah.
Right. So you started to ascend the ziggurat, and there were a couple different like tiers to the ziggurat, and a bunch of naga that were kind of slithering around, making dazing curses and poison spit and things like that. But you handled them. Do you guys remember at what point your tiger druid friend died?
I don't believe our tiger druid friend died.
Did she or did she not?
He did die, but I thought it was when we got closer to getting deeper into this pocket dimension.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly when
It was
that.
on this level.
I know for sure she died.
Yeah, she
I
did
don't
die.
think it was on this level. I think it might have been on the next one.
Okay. I don't think it was on the next one. I think it was on this one, because the next one was the series of labyrinthine traps, right?
Yeah. Because we were mostly out of combat at this point, I believe.
She didn't die. She died. I think it was the crocodiles.
I think she had something to do with the rescue of Celestine.
Yeah.
Oh, I think she sacrificed herself to save Celestine.
She did, and her dying words were, find him for me and tell him that I love him.
Yes.
Yes.
This whole endeavor is so unfortunate.
So unfortunate.
Right.
Thanks, Wes.
Okay, so you get to the top of the ziggurat. Your newfound druid friend is dead at the bottom. You have left a pile of dead snakes and alligators and spiders and scorpions, and you at the top of the covered top has some stairs that go down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you go down to these stairs, and then you're in a very small chamber. And the chamber has a number of doors. And the chamber also, doesn't it also have a bunch of altars? And around the outside edge of the chamber, there are golden effigies on tables, right?
Now I remember this part. I don't remember any of the last 20 minutes. I'm not sure I was actually with you guys for the last part. I think
we were camping, dude. Like,
yeah, I remember this part we were camping, but the last part I didn't remember.
You know what? Maybe we weren't, because the map that I had up was definitely an online map.
Yeah.
So maybe
we started.
But I do remember now at this point, once we entered that little chamber, there was a physical map. It was
Yeah.
very physical, and it was like a big foam board, but we couldn't see anything. It was all just a big blank white board with blue tape kind of covering it up in various random spots.
So
Yeah,
this was
And
one
I
of the
don't.
cool DM tricks that Justin did. He created his own DIY fog of war.
Fog of War. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And there was
Yes.
like little scarabs or something, and we figured out that when you took one of the golden scarabs or whatever it was and put it in a certain spot, it would one of the doors would open. And as the door opened, a little X-Acto knife came out into the DM's hands and traced around on some of the blue painter's tape and lifted up a little foam mat as the door opened and the fog of war lifted, and we could see in there. And there was a map. Same, it was like two boards, and so as he lifted up the top piece, you could see the map colored underneath. It was really cool. One of the coolest things I've ever seen.
It was very cool. Yeah.
I also 3D printed the little effigies for you guys to put on the different.
Yeah.
I made scarabs and skulls and a dragon. I think I don't remember.
That's right.
Yeah. So, does anyone remember struggling with this puzzle when you guys got
Yeah.
it? Like
Yeah.
gas entered the room.
I remember it was a puzzle, and if you did it wrong, we got attacked or something like that.
Yeah, we would release enemies.
Was it poison gas?
There was a
could
little
be.
bit
there
of
was
everything.
everything. Yeah.
Kinds of traps.
There
Yeah.
was gas, enemies, secret doors. It was awesome.
Yeah, as these rooms are opened, as they put different things on the pedestals, different doors opened. All of the doors led to the big chamber that they were supposed to go to. They didn't know that, obviously, because the whole map was covered, and I revealed it as they found it. And so each one of the doors went to an antechamber, and then that antechamber led to the larger chamber. Some of them were magical traps. Some of them were illusions. There was one chamber that had some ghost hags in it. Some that had like a displacer beast. One that had scorpion, or no, this one had. There was one that had spiders. And so they figured out. One also had like a sliding trap, that kind of like crushed whoever walked into it against the opposite wall. Trying to remember if there are any more. There was one that was all like fog, where you couldn't see through it, and there were holes in the floor. Anyway.
Yeah, Rook ended up going by himself, and then eventually I ended up following him, but then I went a different route. And him and I ended up meeting up when I found a secret panel that opened the door.
Yeah.
And then him and I ended up getting stuck in a side chamber while you guys were battling these weaker foes. Him and I got surrounded by all these shark people.
Yeah.
Oh, the shark people. Yeah.
So you guys made it out into the main chamber before anyone else. And these sharkmen were swimming. So the main chamber was a giant circle like dais that was in a big square room, and everything around the dais was all water. And it was hard to see how deep the water was, but all you could see were these fins, and then at the edge of the dais, these sharkmen climbed up and started to attack from all sides.
They were tough.
And they were tough. They were tough. And eventually the rest of the group kind of came together, and you guys defeated the sharks. Was there a main guy in this room, or was it just the
There's a big shark, like a mega one that was in the center?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, he had these big
daddy shark.
He had these big push knives that were made out of giant shark teeth, like huge shark teeth. Yeah.
One day,
He was the granddaddy shark.
yeah.
Dude.
Someday when we post
Wait.
pictures of all these minis, I'm looking forward to seeing those
They
minis
were
again.
so cool.
Yeah, we'll do that on a craft night, on an off adventure night. So
Were they like your kids had like I can't remember. There's something about these minis. They weren't just like normal.
the big bad guy, one of my sons painted, and it was a Reaper figure. And he had only painted a couple minis before that, but you know, I sort of taught him some stuff about painting, and he just went to town on it, and it was great. And so I actually bought it from him. I spent money to pay him for his painting,
Yeah. Hey.
on my own miniature that I gave him. So it was great.
And and the map itself that one was colored a little bit too, I think, right?
Yeah. You also, oh yeah, that's right. All the maps I had photocopied in black and white, and I let my kids color with marker pens, and so they colored these giant photocopied, things, because I didn't want to do a color copy. That would have been too much. I just had them to color them with markers and colored pencils for me. So yeah, and that just added a level of detail to the whole thing. So you defeat this big shark guy, and what does he have? He has some pearls.
Yes.
Pearls.
Remember that.
I forgot about the pearls.
How,
Oh man,
how'd you guys figure out what the pearls did?
I'll have my pearl.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes, we did.
Well, I don't know if it was metagaming because we legit were sitting there talking about what to do. I don't. We were yeah It
Okay.
was a puzzle. How did we figure it out though?
I
I
made
don't
you
remember
guys,
that part at
made
all.
you guys roll a history check, and someone knew. Oh wait, now I remember.
Hmm.
Supposed to swallow these. Um, and so you guys figured that out. But I remember a key point when I think the rope, someone had let go of the rope, or something like that, and Celestine almost fell down to the next level without anyone holding on to his rope, and that would have been Coitons for him,
Hmm.
because
Really?
yeah, there was no coming back from that.
Ooh.
He was really close to losing his character.
I do not remember that.
Twice, twice in the, yeah, right.
And
So
this is out in the this is out on a picnic table in the middle of central Washington on a beautiful hot summer day in July.
mhm, super fun.
We had no source books to create a new character right then. You would have had to sit there for the rest of the trip.
Mhm. That's right. So you guys figured out that's totally would have been.
Yeah.
So you guys figured out that swallowing the pearls allowed you to breathe underwater. You all went down and found that very small passage at the bottom of this big pool, and kind of everyone grabbed onto the rope, so that no one would get lost, and you continued through this passage, twists and turns, and a long way down. a tight squeeze, and suddenly, where were you?
In this like it was like an underwater chamber.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was made of. It was like an underwater throne room made of all sorts of coral and kelp and seaweed, and there were animals, just small fish everywhere, and large sharks kind of cruising around.
It
Yeah,
was beautiful.
And it was beautiful.
There was
Yeah,
a portal
absolutely.
at the far end back behind the throne. Like there was a portal back there too. Was it open? Like when we got there, the portal was already open.
it was being opened. That was the struggle in the battle. There was a struggle for the portal was on its way to being opened, um, or yeah, opened or closed. I'm trying to remember how the events went. Um,
Where is the rod? Is the rod's there, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
that's right.
Was it a sea witch or something like that? Or
Yes.
You know why? It's because when we were battling the sharks, they snatched the rod from you and went into the depths, didn't they?
No, Aemon already
Aemon
had
had
the
the rod.
rod.
Right.
Oh, that's right. That's
But
right.
but
Did we
at
discover
some,
that Aemon was dead at this point? We discovered that Aemon was dead at this point. Like he had
no,
already died.
no, he wasn't dead. He was up near the portal. He was like right near the throne, I think, like sitting.
Wait, hold on a second. Didn't those shark creatures steal our totems?
No, they had sticky shields. Um, they would steal some of your weapons, and some of you who don't actually have weapons but have totems or implements, they stuck to their shields. You got them back after you killed them, but that was one of the mechanics of the Sharkmen, is they had these extremely sticky shields, and they would sort of like shoulder bash you and steal something from you on the sticky shield. So no, but when you went into this chamber, you saw this queen. At this point, Aemon was dead, but his ghost form,
Ah, there we go.
ghost wolf form, was sitting by the throne, and this queen, this very beautiful sea witch, was in the process of opening a portal. And
was she opening it with the rod of chaos?
I don't remember. I'm trying to remember why she was opening the portal, and if she I know she had the Rod of Chaos because she used it against you guys, and that's what was ended up to being her demise. And
Oh yeah, because it was used against her.
yeah, so
The
I had the whole list, the whole D100 list, and she ended up like sealing her own mouth shut.
Yeah.
Honestly. Right. And she breathes water
Things are
and
what she could do.
cannot make oxygen go over her gills, so she ended up losing power and energy and eventually dying. But before then,
We're skipping forward in the fight.
right, she called her pet to fight you, and up from underneath this catwalk to the throne, these giant tentacles wrapped around, and then this huge. I think I called it the Kraken, but it is this enormous, like model from Wrath of Kings. I think I have it.
I was going to ask if you had the map as well, because the map was really beautiful, and it was like a hand-colored map, and it was better than black and white, and it was better than like a printed color map because it was like drawn, colored by your kids. So it just made
Yeah.
it this like one of a kind, unique, beautiful thing that was like like when you
Yeah.
swim down into the Little Mermaid's like kingdom. That's exactly what it felt like, I think.
But I don't exactly know where it is, so I'd have to look it up. Here's
And
the
the creature there was I think a couple different models, minis, and there was like tentacles that would come up. And so you'd be on the bridge and a tentacle would come up, and then sometimes the thing would come back up on top and you'd be fighting it, but then it would crawl back down on the underside of the bridge and you just had the tentacles again. So you couldn't always hit the actual thing, you just had to fight its tentacles.
Yeah, so this model is from the game Wrath of Kings, and it I put it together for this event, and I still have a lot of gaps to fill, and it has to be painted, and there's a lot of things that I need to do to this. But it's a really cool model that just has tentacles like crazy and a giant, like thorny mouth and all this stuff. But I pulled this out, and yeah, Joe, you're totally right. Some of the mechanics where the tentacles would just kind of come around the side, and you'd have to attack the tentacles. And I don't think I scaled it correctly, or the mechanics didn't work out correctly because you guys handily killed it.
I don't remember it being that easy.
Okay. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. I feel like it was very fitting for the Rod of Chaos to have the ability to change her life to the point of death, just as it has changed your guys' lives too. Um, Very unpredictably, very chaotically, and so that fight was a lot quicker than I expected it to be. But hey, I mean, chaos speaks. That's what happened. Now, as she's dying, was she the one that threw it towards the portal? The portal is collapsing because she wasn't there to keep it open, and the Rod of Chaos went right through the portal as it shut and completely disappeared. And I think I remember on some level Enceladus sort of going no and like reaching towards it, and
Enceladus that longed for the rod of chaos.
yes, a bittersweet parting.
But there was definitely like a feeling of like it is somewhere far away. There was like I don't know if it was like complete closure.
Exactly.
It kind of had the gone feeling, like there's sort of yeah.
She couldn't sense it. She couldn't sense it nearby. She couldn't feel it anymore.
Right. Yeah, that was another key part is when the portal closed, Enceladus sort of had a spidey sense about that the rod was still in the world and you could still feel it, and she didn't feel that anymore.
But do we know where the portal went to?
I think we do.
I found a picture from our camping trip that is of the map.
You found a picture of the map?
Yeah. Do you want me to share it?
Sure. I don't know, Jake, if you're able to bring that up. I would like to give official credit to the artist. I will see if we can link their site. Their name is hard to pronounce, but I'll see if I can link their site and their Patreon in our comments in the show notes. I use a lot of their free maps, and I would love to give them credit for the artist the artistic part of it. When we started doing a virtual tabletop stuff, I had to find a lot of resources in order to present a virtual option and a virtual world that we could all play on. So I use, we use Roll20 in conjunction with Discord, and I find maps. Some of them I have paid for, very much so, and some of them are just free, free from artists that also have Patreons for supporting their work. And in the future, when we continue to do live streams and have posted videos, if I am using a map that is from an artist that I can link to, I will definitely link to them and give them the credit, because I have not made any maps, and I am really thankful for them to have shared their art for free, so that we can play D&D on a shoestring budget. So anyway.
Where are you putting the picture of the map, Jeremiah?
I just shared it in Discord.
Which channel?
Also, go
He
ahead.
did a stream share, and it had to be like if you show the non-video participants, you would have seen it.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do is post a link to it so that I can open it up and then open that and show our viewers.
Okay.
I'll also point out that that mini that we were fighting was unpainted. One of the very rare unpainted minis that ever hits the table. It had to have been a really cool and special one to hit the table before it was finished, because Justin's minifigures are meticulously, wonderfully hand painted usually. So I know it's very hard for him to take an unpainted or unfinished mini and put it on the table. It must have been really important for him to do that.
Yes,
Okay.
that's entirely true.
Well, that didn't work. So Jeremiah, why don't you go ahead and go live again?
And another thing, I don't know if we ever mentioned that the pearls, once we rolled the history check, we figured out that the pearls, you ate them and then water, right?
Breathe underwater, not breed underwater.
Yeah, breathe. Breathe. I don't think they prohibited the other things, but anyways.
Oh yeah, I see that picture now, Jeremiah. Perfect.
So that did not work whatsoever for the stream.
Yep. That
Is
didn't
that
work.
gonna work
wish
for the stream?
No.
now we can see our Discord channel, but I don't think that's what we want to be showing.
No. We'll have to figure out a different way to show it. It put onto the stream Jeremiah's level of the music, which was incredibly loud. And then just showed part of the Discord instead of actually the picture. So, and then it turned my camera off. So, yeah, that didn't work at all.
I know we can't hear Jeremiah because he's muted, but I will say your snazzy back to school haircut looks really good.
Thank you.
Very ready for school.
So we
Kids
had
won't know what hit them.
We're getting close to 2 hours, but we had two very important milestones. Or we knew we were going to start, and we have a specific endpoint. So let's see if we can make it to that endpoint for our next
We're
stream.
going to try to make it the endpoint. Yes. So that is the end of one of the other amazing characters, the Rod of Chaos, that has been with the party for quite a while. And Eamon. Eamon was a ghost in his lightning wolf form, sitting by the throne, and he kind of said, "Hey, I didn't make it, obviously, but the rod is now safe." And you guys were able to pass on the message from his beloved, who was coming after him and died in the process. And he was able to say, "Well, I'll look for her in the afterlife," and he kind of was sort of sent on his way as well. And you went back through the levels, and made your way all the way out of the shining pool in the Eldeen Reaches. Is there anything significant about that time between when you were finished there and made it all the way back to Korth, to the tower, or to the Citadel to talk to Tankus?
I know if we looked carefully, we would be able to harvest our pearls and use them again if we wanted to, but we had to watch our stools carefully to
That's right.
get the pearl and clean it off.
Did
Yeah.
we?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone said that they were going to.
All right.
I trust that you did.
It was
Bacchius-
it was agreed we were going
Celestine
to keep
didn't
our
need one.
pearls after we poop.
That's right. Bacchius
Well,
would have.
I hope we ate something that made us poop rather quickly.
Moving on, at the end of that encounter, we also leveled up to level 15,
Yes, that's right.
which is like level 10.
Yeah,
Because
it's halfway up the ladder.
4 goes to level 30.
That's right. Right, exactly. And that was the end of camping too. I think that was the last encounter for our first pandemic camping trip ever in her life, and it went well. It was fun.
So many stories.
What's
Oh my
entire
goodness.
yacht?
That's right. So we came back refreshed, and the Citadel was still standing in Korth, or floating rather. And Tankus said, "So sorry about Eamon, and we still need to find John the Purple." And so, yeah,
Went to Arganessen and hadn't been heard from.
yep, we went to Arganessen and had to talk to the dragons about the Serani, and hadn't heard.
For those who aren't up on their Eberron lore, Arganessen is a continent 100% full of dragons. That's where the dragons.
Yeah, majority dragon.
There be dragon. Yes, majority.
Yeah. So, did you guys hire? I'm trying to remember if you hired a ship captain or whether you or the 12 provided one for you.
They provided one for us.
Okay. Yep.
But it wasn't like he was an agent of the 12. They said, hey, we hired. We called a cab for you, essentially.
It was a House Lorander. Like, he was in shipping.
Mhm.
You know, he was happy to have Bacchius help with Bacchius's ability to use wind. You know, Bacchius helped him out. But
I helped control the elemental, right?
He was happy later, but remember he did have he did have some helpers to start.
He did.
Remember
I remember that.
Yeah.
To start, did we get in a fight along the way?
Well,
yes, the Miners Guild.
You guys are still suspicious of them because they kind of steered you guys in the direction that you found yourself. Anyway, they were two mages. I think I remember were they half orc or were they dragonborn or they probably weren't dragonborn, probably half elf or no half orc.
I think they were.
Remember?
Yeah. So you're tootling along, going to the east because that's the way to Arganessen.
And then something broke.
Something broke. Well, first, before that, you were the only passengers on board except for one other.
A human monk.
A human monk who was sitting at the bow, meditating.
And get him to shut up.
And this was the character that Jake had come up with as his backup character.
But we didn't know that.
But no one knew that except for, well, I think Jake, I think I told you that, hey, your character is going to be on, I'm going to introduce your character at some point.
Well, that's got to make you nervous.
And this was very, very much right after camping. Right after he said, hey, by the by, I'd really like to have a backup character. And I said, okay.
1 week later.
So
So
soon.
so the deal was I had another camping trip after our camping trip, and I told him, hey, this is the idea I have for a backup character. This character will actually have a backstory, will have motivations, will have certain things that they do and certain biases that could make our story more interesting. And it wasn't just like here's the class that I want to play. When I would thought of a backup character, knowing more about the campaign, I thought this is something that I would like to do as a character mechanically, and this is how I could make it interesting for the campaign. And when I let Justin know that, he was like, "Yes, absolutely. How soon can you make them?" Which made me nervous. So I was on a camping trip in not great cell service, and my wife and my in-laws were a little curious as to why I had my phone, an iPad, and a laptop out for 3 days trying to make. They're like, "What is he doing? We're camping at this beautiful campsite," and he's furiously on 3 devices at the same time, trying to make this monk in time for the next upcoming Thursday.
Yeah, so I just want to say in my defense that it was the perfect character and the perfect time to put that character in the story, and I had every intention on what was bound to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I was very, very intentional about the transition that you will be witness to here in a moment. So anyway, that's Thrax meditating at the front of this ship that the adventurers have had hired for them to make it to Arganesson. And then suddenly, are there bumps? Or is there?
I think our elemental airship just kind of like went clunk,
Yep,
and
kind of listed to the side a little bit, and the captain comes out and says, I don't know what's going on, but we have to make an emergency stop. And you start veering to the north, from going east. You kind of just like go, and then you're going through the fog, and it's really dark. It's the nighttime, and you pull into this airship port in the Lazar Principalities, and it's supposedly the nearest port where you can be repaired. And you pull in, and there's another airship docked, and it looks a little bit sketch. Everyone is sort of on edge. The people that are attending, that are there at the airship port, they have House Cannith, crests on their armor and their clothes. And that House Cannith is they probably would be the ones to fix an airship, sort of, maybe, unsure about that. And the captain, or the captain, is sort of very trusting of these guys, and you guys are like, whoa, we have history, we know what like what goes on when you're too trusting, so we're gonna like be very careful with this. And the head mechanic is very pushy and tries to get you all inside. And you guys, some of you try and like do some investigation and are pushy back, and try to get into fights.
Well, they stuck us in a little, Jiffy Lube waiting room.
Right.
This little thing with a couple chairs where we're sitting there looking at each other and the attendants.
Yep.
And there's like 2 doors, and somebody breaks through a door and goes down a hallway, and it looks like it's, just a boring hallway. But we're all on edge, basically.
All on edge.
Yeah.
Gers is more on edge than any of us.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm always on edge.
And if I recall, Celestine goes outside to see what the hell is going on.
Yeah, like why the repairs are taking so long.
And he kind of yells at someone, if I recall.
Yep.
He says,
"Who's on board the ship that's being repaired? Your ship that's being repaired."
I said, "What's taking so long?" And the person says, "Well, I need help lifting these things. If you want to get out of here faster, why don't you come over here and help me do it?" So Celestine says, "Why the hell not? Let's get out of here."
What?
So
Why would he do that?
so Celestine goes over to help this guy, and immediately it gets Warforged napped.
Yep. The old gunny
Force
sack over the head, dragged to the back, and the ship starts to leave the dock.
We don't know that he got kidnapped. No. All we know, I think at some point somebody went outside and saw where's Celestine,
Yeah.
or maybe even saw him get on the ship, but then sees the ship start to slowly pull away.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was my character was confused as to what was going on. Things were really fishy, and Celestine was taking longer than he was supposed to. So I went out and checked, and saw that the ship was flying away, and that he was nowhere to be found, and that there was only a cliffside, so it wasn't like he was hiding somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that
And there was kind of like two docks, I think, and you could go around to like the other one. And I don't know if it was Gers or if it was somebody else, but I remember looking across this space and saying, okay, the ship is starting to pull away, and the DM was very intentional about, okay. And
this
so the ship now is about 5 feet from
No,
off
on path.
off the dock, and we were kind of like, oh, okay, I'm gonna start to move around this way, and he says, okay, and now the ship is about 15 feet away, and there is this panic that very quickly built. Okay, we're trying not to metagame too much, but okay, and the ship is now 30 feet away from the dock, and it's pulling away and gaining speed.
And I remember trying to turn into an owl and follow it, and it was just too fast.
Yeah,
Just terrible.
that was one of the countdowns to prevent too much metagaming, because if you guys were gonna spend the a half an hour talking about how can we get back on the ship, how can we get the ship to stop, I was essentially creating the level of urgency, momentary like decision making that needed to happen in that moment, and the ship ends up leaving.
You
And
made it very real.
so at that point, Celestine was gone from the party. He was on the ship.
And we had no idea about Thrax, about Jake making a new character, wanting to play a new character. None of us had any idea. We just saw our buddy exit from the game.
That's right. That's right.
It's one of the other moments that I have D&D PTSD about.
D&D TSD.
Yeah. Right. So we introduce Thrax as a new character in a moment of panic as as
The next week, though, I think, right?
yeah. Did we introduce it that we didn't introduce it that night, did we?
I don't think so.
It waited, and then next week it was like, oh, by the way,
made us sweat it.
Jake's now playing Thrax.
What's that, Jeremiah?
I said, I think you made us sweat it out, and then we ended up getting on a ship, and we started interacting with Thrax, and that's when he officially, we knew he was Jake.
Yep.
But what about Celestine? Did he show up right then?
Yes.
Yes. So there was at some point our ship came. It was our ship was ready or something like that, and our captain, the captain we hired, Captain Gavin, what was his name? Anyway, he's like, what do you mean your warforged is gone? We're fixing our ship up, and here, isn't this your warforged? And a warforged that looked completely different, like
Yep.
not
like
very
straight off the shelf.
Straight off the shelf, very generic looking, comes out and says, "Friends, it is I, Celestine, your friend.
Celestine.
Here I am. What do you mean I look different?
Right.
It is I.
tests on him to see if he had any of his powers. We asked him to do one or two things, and he couldn't do. He can remember that he could do them. He thinks he can do them, but he can't do them and have the
The
abilities.
the wonderful thing about Celestine is that he is just as bullheaded and aggressive as Celestine, but he's also very useless.
No, I like him way more, actually. But he ends up, the captain is like, all right, there's your Warforged, let's go. And so we leave. We don't have any other really choice other than to get on the ship and leave with this new Warforged.
Just to clarify what happened, the ship left with Celestine, goes out, comes back.
Oh, yeah.
Comes back like 15 minutes later. All the people on the ship say, it's all ready to go. You're good. And without addressing anything about how all of a sudden, you have a Warforged who thinks that he is the same person, but is absolutely not.
But it's actually not clear that he's. I mean, it doesn't look like him.
Right.
But he has the memories, and so it was not clear. We thought, well, maybe Celestine's memories got transferred into this guy. Maybe this is our guy. He's just messed up. It was all very confusing.
But the captain was very insistent on, hey, here's your guy. We got to go. I have things to deliver, and I have you to deliver, and I think that is where we'll end this episode of the recap. And next recap will bring you to current. It will include such hilarity as the inside of a dragon, a food cart, and head scorpions. So stay tuned.
It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great. Thank you for listening. Subscribe, hit the like button, and the notification bell so that you can see when our stream will be on. And comment, ask questions, we'll answer them.
Feed the machine. And if I'm not mistaken, we're now moving to a bi-weekly schedule for D&D. Is that correct, Justin?
Yes.
So that means next week, fingers crossed, I do believe we are still going to go live, but it's going to be different content. Every week we do something, although it's a lot of work trying to get everybody together on any given Thursday. So given that this is kind of Justin's night and most of our nights to hang out and relax, even if we aren't playing D&D, we're doing something. You can see behind Justin there are various paints and craft materials. So next Thursday we actually have some stuff to paint, and we're always doing something, whether we're making minis, printing, painting, or just playing board games. So next week, when you tune in on Thursday, it won't be a recap, but we will be working on stuff.
Yep, and we also can take live questions about how to run D&D, how to play D&D, how not
to play D&D.
Play D&D, yeah, right. And in the stream, we'll be more than happy to answer questions live that you have. So please join us on Thursdays.
I'm still Joe.
I'm still Joe. I'm still Justin, the DM.
Still Jake.
Still Jeremiah, though. The jury's
Still
out.
Doug.
And we will see you next time.
Bye.